my helmet was pointing downwards, and I didn't realise it until I had actually stopped and reviewed the video footage that evening of the BikeSafe day. And of course I wasn't able then to re-record the video footage. So for the forward-facing camera part of this video, apologies for the camera facing downwards. I'll try and talk you through it as much as I possibly can. We met up in the morning at the bike shed in London, Old Street, London, and after about an hour and a half of briefing with the guys from the Metropolitan Police, with some really actually quite interesting stuff, certainly some stuff that I didn't know before, we headed out in pairs. So we were 2 motorcyclists per 1 police rider north out of London. We started off where our particular policeman was a guy called Gordy, and he headed off and led us out of London. And then shortly after, it was arranged that Susie, the other rider I was with for the day, was going to go ahead of Gordy, and then he would do some observations of her riding. After that, it was fairly easy. He would then stop and it would change. Having Gordy in front of us on his police motorcycle, or with us on his police motorcycle riding through London, certainly gave a very different feeling than one is you're normally used to riding in London. His positioning was of course perfect, and I learned a lot by just watching his positioning. It was also pretty apparent the way that other road users reacted to us as motorcyclists. They gave us a lot more space than they do normally, which was great. So at the very least it was really good fun to just to be able to ride with a police motorcyclist and have all the traffic give way to us for a change, rather than try and speed and cut us up and overtake and do whatever else they do. It was also quite interesting to see how many delivery motorcycle riders on scooters actually didn't overtake or swerve in and out of the traffic whilst we were with the police motorcycle rider. So maybe that says something, I don't know. If you're a delivery rider and you choose to give a thumbs down for that because you like to treat London like it's your own personal OK corral, then that's fine, then you must go ahead and do that. Personally, I think you should all go away and get yourself a proper motorcycle licence and stop buggering around and treating the streets of London as if it was okay to do what the hell you like whenever the hell you like. Anyway, that's the rant over. So moving on, you'll see up ahead that we just pull over, and this is where Gordon turns round and asks me if I'm okay. He turns round and asks me to take the lead. So off in the lead I go from here. Again, you can see that the camera is pointing downwards, so the picture forward is not that great, but if you have a look in my right view mirror, you'll see that Gordon is directly behind me, and in the distance there Susie is behind Gordon, so it's him that I'm watching now. But Gordon had already given us instruction prior to leaving that we needed to keep an eye out on his indication and his positioning to give us an idea as to which way we're going to go. If there was no signal, no indication that there was going to be a change of direction, even if we came up to an island, that just meant carry on until he gave us other instructions. So it was important to keep an eye out on the mirrors, and Gordon was very good. He gave lots of indication before we even made the move or about to make the move, so giving us enough time to indicate. Of course, it was when we first started off and when I was in front. I got to be honest, I was a little bit nervous, and I guess that's to be expected. I've got this really experienced police officer riding behind me and watching my every move and counting the gears that I'm in, and that was a bit stressful, and it took me a little while for me to settle into it. And it was only after our first stop, when we got to South Mimms service station, that I actually did relax, and it was the afternoon before I really started to relax. Yeah, I had some good feedback at South Mimms as well. As you can see from my riding, I tend to be in the habit of moving away from cars that are coming towards me, even though we were the day is a lot about positioning, and I'll come more to that in a minute. Even if the position is correct for me, I tend to want to move away out of anything that might swerve across my path. So I'm in the habit of giving up my position to feel safer. One of the things that I mentioned to Gordy before we left was that, oh, here you go, just to stop here a second. He's giving me some instruction here. I don't think I quite heard him, but I got the idea from where he was pointing as to what he wanted me to do. So yeah, before we left, we were given some instruction as to all of the things to do, and one of the things that I said to Gordy was that I was generally uncomfortable filtering. I explained that I was uncomfortable filtering simply because I'd had a bad experience where I was almost brought off my bike by some idiot opening their door, and also being on an R1200 GS with panniers on it and a big wide boxer engine and crash bars. It still scares me to filter unless I can get. I've got plenty of room to get through. All of the police officers were really good about it, and none of the course is about trying to make you feel uncomfortable or to ride out of whatever is your comfort zone. Just because I don't filter doesn't make me a bad rider, and that was made quite clear to me. It just means that I ride within my comfort zone. I don't ride in a way that I'm ever in a rush, and I don't ride in a way that I ever feel it necessary to weave in and out of traffic. I ride for my pleasure, and I wasn't forced in any way or encouraged in any way to do anything that wasn't within my comfort zone. In fact, quite the contrary, I was encouraged to ride in a way that was 100% within my comfort zone, which was really good, because I was nervous about doing this course initially, and we'll be honest, there was a time when, a couple of days beforehand, when I almost cancelled because I felt that I would be encouraged, not forced, but pressured to ride in a way that I wasn't comfortable to ride. That's not the case at all. They were absolutely 100% encouraging, professional, and just generally great.
So in advanced biking, Mark, if this is stuck, it's going to be in that lane. Yeah.
I can't hear you very well. Advanced biking?
It's going to go into this lane.
Oh, right.
Right. Get in front. The advanced thinks not, thinks where can I get?
Okay.
She's indicated left, sort of cut you off already. So
Okay.
It's going to go left. Got a brake light out. This kind of thing, you might think of standard of driving.
Okay.
You're going to go straight on.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
No, don't worry.
So that was my first bit of verbal instruction from Gordy, which was really useful. I do tend to have this habit of staying left and just being in the safe area. You know, that lady in front could have easily rolled back and it could have slowed me down. However, that said, although that was really good advice, it's probably more likely that I wouldn't change that for me, and that's because the only thing I probably would have changed was to perhaps not have stopped quite so close to the car in front. That way I haven't got to think about getting ahead and getting in front and taking off sooner. And I know that's the right way to do things, but it's not necessarily the right way for me to do things. So although sometimes I do that, and that was great advice, like I said, it's not necessarily something that I would always choose to do for myself. And the nice thing about a BikeSafe day, and the nice thing about riding with Gordy, is the fact that you're not forced to do anything which you're not comfortable with. You can stay there. The whole idea is that the police are there on the BikeSafe day to give you feedback and to give you, not to give you instruction, as they make it quite clear they're not there to do, but to give you feedback and advice on how you can ride, which is great, given that, you know, the police have had some amazing training, and someone like Gordy, who's been riding for years and has lots of many thousands of miles worth of police riding under his belt, his advice is massively useful. I certainly would recommend that everybody has a go at doing it. This is where I made a almighty bugger up and was told to take the first exit left off the island. I didn't quite expect the first exit left to be exactly on the island, and I ended up going past it completely. So that's why I kind of waved my left arm in the air, and ended up having to travel. There you go, there's the junction that I just missed. So I had to just carry on going down the road, making a U-turn, and or not a U-turn, actually I turned right into a petrol station and came back. So I'll just skip a bit of video and go back to where we meet up. Of course, at this point I was feeling like a complete chump because I'd had to go down the road and back again, but off we set, and Gordy and Susie had kindly waited for me to catch up a few minutes later. In addition to that, of course, that had kind of thrown my nerves off slightly, and I was even a little bit more nervous and feeling really bad that I'd made such a silly decision. But my decision was quite simple, that when I came around the island I just didn't expect the off turn to the left to be quite so soon, and I hadn't anticipated it, which is another lesson to be learnt from the course, which is absolutely great. It wasn't long until we'd managed to pass most of the traffic and we're heading out for the Hertfordshire countryside, which was quite nice. And at this point you can see down the road that it's a lot clearer than it was before, and I get a chance to finally do some positioning and some road positioning, which was really refreshing. And it was also nice to get out of the 20 mile an hour speed limit that we seem to have been in for absolutely ages. We managed to get into a massive 30 and even 40 mile an hour speed limit is coming up just a bit further down the road. So finally we get out of the built up traffic, and as you can see on my TFT we can get up to, or I get up to about 39 miles an hour here, which is absolutely, what a relief. I keep saying that, but it was a great relief to be making a bit of headway. I couldn't help but think to myself that I seem to have been in front of the front rider in front of Gordy for quite some time, and I will admit that at this point I was starting to get a little conscious and a little stressed. It's quite stressful riding for yourself, and then riding with such an experienced and wealth of knowledge behind you that's watching every move that you're doing. And it's I don't know about anybody else, but I certainly found it in the nicest way. I found it a little bit intimidating. Not that Gordy was intimidating at all, but I made myself feel a bit intimidated because I was conscious of things every little thing that I was doing, which I might not normally be as conscious that I was doing. But I guess that's a good thing, and that's all part of the BikeSafe course. It wasn't long before we caught up with another group of riders who were obviously doing their DAS training. One fellow in front got separated from his main instructor and at the traffic lights, but just across the lights he was waiting for him to catch up, and it just took me back. It wasn't that long ago, in fact 3 years ago, when I too was doing my DAS training. Had I been this young man, I would have been a little bit nervous that a large bike like mine pulled up behind him, and next to him was a guy on a police bike. Anyway, so just round the corner you can see here that this guy caught up with his group, and they veered off to the left, and we carried straight on.
Bastard!
Go towards South Mims.
Bastard!
I'll follow it.
Go straight.
Okay,
Or eventually I will overtake you at some point.
thank you. Great, thank you.
Okay, so I've tried to increase the volume on Gordy's instructions there, but basically what he's just said to me is that he's put along the side of me and he's just said head towards South Mims, and at some point down the road he's going to overtake me. and that overtake was to lead us into South Mim service station, or South Mim services. And I'm just going to skip a bit of video forward now to the bit where he overtakes, so that you can follow us into South Mim services. Okay, so if you look on my right hand side now, you'll see that Gordy is just about to pull past me and overtake, and he waves his hand and shouts, "Follow me, Mark," which you may be able to hear from the audio. And that's it now. So now I'm following the lead rider, which is our police motorcyclist, Gordy, onto South Mim services. At this point, I'm kind of breathing a slight sigh of relief, because I feel the pressure is off a little bit, because I don't feel like I'm being observed so much, which is probably a little bit silly, because that's exactly why I'm there. But I guess there are many other people who feel the same thing when they do a course with BikeSafe, and that is, you're being watched. So it's nice to be able to ride behind the pro for a bit. I don't know about other riders, but I'm quite visual, and because I'm visual, I tend to learn a lot by riding behind somebody else and watching how they ride. For example, Gordy's position in the road, although it's difficult for you to see because the camera is pointing down, which I explained earlier, but nevertheless, if you look at his position in the road, you can see how he positions himself for junctions to the left, like that one there. At some point he does actually get a bit annoyed with the driver. I think it's just about coming up now. He gets a bit annoyed with the driver who pulls off to the left and doesn't indicate. But under normal circumstances, maybe he would have pulled them up, but maybe he couldn't on that day because he was with us. So he positions himself to left and right, and it was quite interesting to see how much of the road that he uses. He goes from extremes, from far position left, position 1, to far right, position 2. And in the past, I've always been a bit wary about using up the far rights and the far lefts, because I wasn't sure what sort of information that is given to the driver behind. And the model that we follow is IPSCA. I'll put what that means up on the screen. There's the driver there, you got annoyed with. I'll put IPSCA up in a bit, but IPSCA is about, the first part of IPSCA is information, and that bit about information is not just the information that you take in, it's also about the information that you give to other road users. And I'm reflecting on it now and looking at the way certainly that Gordy rides and the way that he told me to ride. That positioning gives other drivers information about what your intentions are. You're also using up a lot more road. So when you're moving from left to right and right to left, a lot of car drivers might not know why you're doing that. Certainly before I ever rode a motorcycle, I wouldn't have a clue why a motorcyclist would go from the left to the right. I would wonder why they're doing it. But the bottom line is, while you're doing that, you are actually using the whole of your lane, and that gives you a certain amount of command over your lane. You're giving the information to other drivers that, hey, I'm here and I'm moving from left to right, whether you understand it or not, I'm doing this, and that's it, tough, this is my bit of the lane. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that I took out of the course. Also what I thought was interesting was that, I don't know if you noticed there, that when Gordy stopped and put his foot down, he only ever put his left foot down. Although I do use my back brake to finish my stop, I have linked brakes on my R1200 GS, so I could just not use my back brake at all, because the bike deals with it all for me. But I do, and I'm in the habit of using front brake and back brake, and I tend to use them both. And as I come up to a stop, normally what I do is I let off the front brake and finish off the last few feet with the back brake. It's just less jolty on me. And to be honest, I've jolted a bit too many times in the past, and in the past I've jolted a bit too hard and smacked my nuts on the tank, and that's too painful. So from that point of view, I've learned to make my stopping a lot simpler, a lot smoother. But like I said, he only puts his left foot on the ground. I believe that's an advanced riding technique. I tend to, once I've finished my back brake, I tend to put both feet on the ground, and I do that for one really simple reason. I do that because it means I get to stretch my knees out, because otherwise I get a cramp in my knee. But from an advanced rider's point of view, somebody told me once, well, not that long ago, somebody told me that you are sort of expected to keep your right foot on the peg and only put your left foot down. But hey, I guess once again, everybody has an opinion. There's no such thing as a perfect ride. None of us do a perfect ride. Even Gordy told me that. And I think you've got to do whatever you find is most comfortable for you. Just because one person does something one way and you do it slightly differently doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just in the same way. Just because one person filters and you don't filter, that doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong. I had one young fellow stop and tell me off because I wasn't filtering. Well, hey, tough shit, and that was right. That's my business, not his. Anyway, here we are at South Mim Services, and I'll come back to you in a bit with the next part of the video. So we're just leaving South Mim Services after lunch and a bit of a debrief where we talked about our riding and whether we felt it was safe or not safe and the things that we could do to improve for the afternoon's riding. This, now you're getting a view from the GoPro Hero 4, which is fixed to the top of my right pannier, facing backwards, and in a bit you'll get a better idea as to why I've done this. You'll see that Gordy is there, and some other bits of the other people from our group managed to catch up with us as well.
Okay, so we've just been through, I think we've just been through Hartford. I think. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, I think we've just been through Hartford. I'm not even sure which direction we're going. Supposedly we're going to be doing some sort of a loop so we get back going down towards London, because the time now is 2 o'clock, so we've got about another 2.5 hours of riding to do yet. My bum's definitely starting to feel it a little bit, but hey, I'm alright for now. It's 2:10 in the afternoon. Let's watch out for this car. Straight over, I think.
So unfortunately we're back to the front facing camera, the one on my helmet, which is pointing so far down you can't see that much of the road, and that's because the GoPro Hero 4 that I've got on my right pannier decided to stop recording for some bizarre reason. That's great. GoPro does that all the time to me, and that's just the joys of vlogging, I suppose. If anybody knows of a really good camera which isn't a GoPro and which isn't a drift camera, because I've got a video about drift cameras, and which isn't one of those crappy crosstalk cameras, anybody got any other good ideas as to a good camera to get for motorcycle vlogging, I'd be really interested to hear what it is. Please put it in the comments below, and please don't bother posting anything that's going to cost hundreds of pounds or dollars, because I can't afford it. Anyway, so here we are back with the ride again, and we're still following, at this point we're still following Susie and Officer Gordy for the windy road bit part, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to finish the video off here because it's already been a 24-minute video. This is just a bit of a talk and a bit of an intro as to the BikeSafe day that I did on the 11th of November 2019. I had an absolutely fantastic day. All of the police officers were friendly, accommodating, and really super nice. All of the people were really super nice. Officer Gordy was particularly helpful and particularly nice. He gave me some tips and some information that I never even thought of. And I've been out for a ride since. In fact, I went out for a ride yesterday and implemented some of the things that he said, and already I found it a massive help, and I feel safer on my bike. One of the things that Officer Gordy said to me was that I needed to have more confidence in my own abilities, because I will admit that I'm my own biggest and own world's worst enemy. And I think a lot of us suffer from that, especially when it comes to our riding, and especially as we get older. I know when I was a younger man, I'm 58 now, and when I was in my 20s, 30s, and possibly even 40s, I thought I was indestructible and a lot more cocky and a lot more confident. As I've got older, I've become less of all of those. So he gave me some confidence, and for that I am absolutely super amazingly grateful. So Officer Gordy, if you ever watch this video, I can only say a massive thank you to you, and thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I got some things wrong, and I'm sorry I did a wrong turn and kept you waiting, but if you or anybody else gets a chance to do the BikeSafe day and you happen to get Officer Gordy as the guy that mentors you for the day, then you're going to learn and you're going to have a great day. So that's it. Get yourself over to BikeSafe. I'll put a link in the description below. I was very lucky. I did, because I live in London, there's a scheme on. I got to do it for free. I don't know whether that applies to everybody, but yeah, get yourself on a BikeSafe day, learn some things. At the very least, you'll have a day out with other motorcyclists, other like-minded people who you can chat with, some really amazingly experienced riders who are super trained, and they're yours for the day, and you can't come out of it without enjoying it, and you can't come out of it without experiencing and learning at least one thing new. I learned a stack of new things. So there you go. Thanks for watching this video. Please remember to give it a thumbs up. Please don't give it a thumbs down, because BikeSafe people donate their days, donate their time, especially for us, to train us and to make us safer. So please, as many thumbs up as you can. If you can't give a thumbs up, please don't give anything.